Hello game fans and welcome to another review with Gaming Debugged. Now this one is for one of the launch titles, surprisingly. It's Dead Rising 3. Now it's a little bit after the launch, obviously it's August now, and so I decided to play this game because August was such a quiet month. I was waiting for Destiny and I just thought it was a really good opportunity to actually catch up on some of the games that I wanted to play, and I missed Dead Rising when it first came out because there were so many other games to play, so I took the August lull as an opportunity to play this game. Now obviously Resident Evil had the scares, Left 4 Dead had the sort of thrilling action, and Stubbs the Zombie had the comedy. But what Dead Rising does, it not only has the sheer numbers, the sheer massive amount of zombies, but it also has that element of fun in there as well. So I was really looking forward to playing it, to reviewing it and giving my opinion. So here is my review of Dead Rising 3. Something has to be said for standing atop a crashed delivery van, panning round 360 degrees and being surrounded by hundreds of flesh-eating zombies. No other game series has really captured the one man versus the zombie apocalypse quite so perfectly. Dead Rising 3 takes place 10 years after the Fortune City outbreak in Dead Rising 2. The main story follows a young mechanic named Nick Ramos 3 days into the outbreak, as he is trapped in this fictional city of Los Perdidos in California. Like in the previous games, you have a set time limit to achieve your goals. In the case of Dead Rising 3, the army is going to flatten the city in about 6 days, which is actually twice as long as some of the previous games. Now I was a huge fan of the first game in the series, and it was for so many reasons. I mean, the setting was reminiscent of the movie The Dawn of the Dead, which was really funny. It seemed to push the limits of the console, and it had this protagonist, this photojournalist who was the hero, Frank West, who was like a personality you could really get behind. Back in those days I had a lot of time to play video games, so I didn't really mind the sort of bizarre saving mechanic. Having to use a toilet to save my progress was novel and made for an interesting dash across the supermarket or the mall when you had a number of people to save. By the second Dead Rising game though, I found myself a little bit less time on my hands. And basically I'd get about 30 minutes playtime or an hour's playtime, and I really needed to make it count, so I found the save function a lot more frustrating because I would end up playing for half an hour, and if I didn't make it or I died, it would just be for nothing. I mean, obviously you'd keep your XP, but no, it wasn't enough. I mean, in Dead Rising 2 the hero was much less interesting, but it did have the sort of father-daughter relationship, which definitely helped sort of push the narrative along and definitely gave you something to drive for. In Dead Rising 3, Capcom and Microsoft have listened to the fans and included a story mode that allows for more regular saving and elongates the game with all these new side quests and collectibles and additional content to sort of really make the game a fuller and a longer single player experience. For those hardcore fans though, there is still Nightmare mode, which is definitely well worth a play, as it still has this set time limit, but it's been reduced, and then the enemies are a lot harder and a lot faster, and the toilet saves are back in play. The overall game feels a bit shorter, but it's definitely more intense. The crafting mechanic from Dead Rising 2 has been increased to include vehicles as well, and riding the roller hog through hundreds of zombies whilst using your flamethrower is definitely a standout moment in the game. Thankfully, crafting can be done anywhere in this sort of open world, so there's no need to look for the nearest workbench to create your favourite zombie killing tools. There's over 100 combo weapons to create. There's also the sort of new super combo weapons, where you take two of the combo weapons that you've made and then stitch them together to create these sort of super combos, and these can include anything from sort of machine guns, sentries, with teddy bears and shopping trolleys, to one of my personal favourites, the old reliable Iron Edge, which is created using this broadsword and machete to create this sort of two-edged hack and slash sword. It's really cool. Also back with a vengeance is the array of colourful psychopaths who act as both boss battles through the game, and I read that they actually represent the 7 deadly sins, so expect to see a lot of colourful characters when you reach those bad guys. Sadly though, Nick Ramos is a bit of a wet weekend. He starts the game being pushed around by the other characters and doing as he's told, And then other parts of the game seem sort of following around this emo chick named Annie, who really doesn't want to give him the time of day. Nick really has no apparent family or relationship ties, so it sort of lacks that backstory to begin with. The voice acting is fine. In fact, it does a really good job of portraying a guy scared of his own shadow. And yes, this is just part of the narrative, because obviously later on in the story, he does become a little more battle-hardened. But for me, this really happened a bit too slowly, because after killing 20,000 zombies and then hacking down 3 psychopaths and saving a slew of different people, Nick was still sounding like it was day one of the zombie apocalypse, which was just really weird. I mean, thankfully, this doesn't deter from the overall game, because it's basically the open world is limited, but it is big enough to have a really fantastic experience in. The world has shops to loot, it has suburbs to explore, it has this freeway to race down, and an array of underground tunnels and places to get lost in. The additional voice commands, where you can distract zombies and direct survivors, is a really nice touch, but I didn't use it that much, to be honest. Similarly, you can also activate your smart glass app and then use the smart glass integration to discover more collectibles and unlock different areas, and even set waypoints, which was useful. But again, it's a really nice feature. I'd like to see more explored in further games, but I didn't tend to use it straight off the bat. Now, I was worried when I first saw the initial screens that Dead Rising 3 had actually grown up a bit too much, and it started to take itself a bit too serious compared to all of its original games. But however, I have found that despite its HD, dark and grey graphics, the game is still a heck of a lot of fun, and you'll find yourself dressed as Daisy Duke with a knife, hacking down thousands of zombies for hours on end. So overall, this is a surprisingly entertaining game from start all the way through to overtime. And since release, it has had a load of DLC content as well, which, it's only been a couple of hours extras here, a couple of hours extras there, but it all adds up to create this really amazing experience. I would definitely recommend this game. It stays true to the original in many ways, but also addresses a number of the issues from the other titles. I mean, it would have been nice to see sort of more vibrant graphics, considering the sort of light-hearted, funny side of the game, and I would have liked to see a more interesting main character. But really, these issues aren't a deal breaker, so if you're hungry for some zombie killing action, then definitely tool up, because you cannot go wrong with Dead Rising 3.
I guess I owe you one. Back to work.
Finish him! And you've been dead a long time. So you're gonna see a lot of things you won't understand. This is fallen territory. We aren't safe here. I have to get into the city. Hold still. Don't worry, I'm still with you. We need to move. Fast.